Well, hello, shiny, crafty people. Tim Totten here. Welcome back to the channel. You know, in a previous video, I showed you how to take a standard placemat and turn it into a cute bread basket for your holiday table. But today I want to show you how to take a placemat and turn it into a cute bag that snaps shut. This cool personal snapshot. Or you can use maybe something for the other times of the year. Also a really great bag. Or if you want to get out your fabrics, you can also turn it into a really cute gift bag this way. So join me down at the cutting table to see the surprising items that go into this product. So we're going to need our placemats. In fact, I bought these at Walmart. I think they were like $1.97 each. And they're really nice. They're the holiday time version. And I like the fringe on these, and we're going to use that. But also, I found this set of gold placemats, and they're like a woven plastic. And these were at, let's see, they were at TJ Maxx. And they were all of, can you see that? $9.99 for 6 of them. So in fact, they were cheaper than the Walmart ones. But we're also going to need some fabric for the top. You'll see here, there's the fabric here, and on the inside of this one you're going to need some type of fabric to enclose our snap mechanism. And so you can either use something that doesn't fray. This is a nylon packcloth that doesn't have too much fraying, or I have some scuba material here, which is basically a nice spandex, which doesn't really fray either. You could use that or jersey, or if you want, you could buy, get fabric, create little tunnels and stitch them down if you chose to. And then we need something for that snap mechanism. In fact, what we're going to use is a simple $3 measuring tape. What is in there is literally just measuring tape. So what you're going to do is we're going to have to open this up. I'll show you how to do that. Now literally I bought the cheapest one I could find at Walmart. I want you to be really careful when you do this. I've already got part of one open, but I'm going to, if I can actually get that to open with this. Let me get a different screwdriver. All right, I found a smaller screwdriver and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So we'll come in here. What I want you to be careful of is that this, when these pull out, they wind back in, and that's because there's a spring on the inside. So you have to be really careful as you take these apart. And you may want to have a rubber band with you, like nearby, as you do this, so that you can go ahead and keep that and close that in there. So I'm just taking these 3 out. This particular one is available at Walmart, like I said, but you could buy ones from elsewhere. And then there's a middle one too. I forgot this one in the middle. Has to come out as well. So once I take all 4 of those out, then I can pop that open. And you'll see it wound through there. So when you take this out, you're going to want to very carefully keep it tightened up with it's got to come off there. See, it's connected on the inside. You may have to let it sort of unwind itself a little bit and then pull it off. So it pulled off this piece of metal here. And then you're going to want to wind that up with a rubber band to hold it together. Now I've got one that I've already done, so I'm just going to kind of put this sort of back together and kick it out of the way. If I can figure out how to do that without hurting myself. I've already been playing with this, of course, with another one, so I've got one already opened. And believe it or not, this metal, which will go everywhere in your house, so maybe you don't want to buy a 25-foot one. This metal, I got it back now, finally. This metal can be cut with a standard pair of scissors. Now don't use your regular cutting scissors for fabric. Get the kitchen shears or these utility shears that I have. And what we'll want to do is we're going to figure out how wide our placemats are. And we don't want to cut this as wide as the placemat. So in fact, if I were to cut this at 12 inches, it would be the right size. So I'm going to cut 2 at 12 inches for this one. Now it's easy because it's got measuring on it. So I know if I go from 208 to 220, and isn't it amazing how easily this cuts? And then I'm going to go to 232 because I know that's another 12 inches. Right? That's great. So that's right for that gold one. And the red one is pretty much the same. So I'm going to cut 2 more. So I was at 232, and I'm going to go to 244 to give us another 12. And then to 256. So that's how we're getting our foot-long pieces. And then I'll just set the rest of it aside for now. Now you will notice that these ends are going to be kind of sharp, right? We don't want them to be that sharp. Now you could try to figure out how to go in here and round them, but that's pretty difficult. And really, if I just go in at a 45-degree angle and just cut off a little bit, then I can go at the next angle and pop just the point off of that one, and then the point off of that one. See, so we've gone in there and created a rounded shape. Let me just do a 45-degree one here so you'll see. So we've gone from straight to 45 and then clipped the other points off of that 45 to get this. Now I will tell you, if you're a little concerned about your ability to cut those, even though this is not that hard to do, if you just don't have the strongest hands, find somebody in your life who does have stronger hands and just tell them, hey, spend a minute and do this for me. Show them my video if you have to. And then I suggest cutting these either outside or over a garbage can because they are going to fly everywhere. And in fact, I'm going to clean up my workshop when we're done because I'm going to need to, because I'll have to find all these pieces that just popped off. You know, you could, I'll tell you, it sounds weird, but if you get a large box, maybe that some stuff shipped in to your house, and you just sort of put this down in the box and then cut it in the box, all the pieces will kind of fall off into the box. Hopefully they won't go flying too far. I do that sometimes, almost like if you know, we're doing like a paint box almost. And sometimes I do that, like if we're painting, you know, spray painting something, I put it down to a side of a big box and just give it a couple hits of spray paint if I need something spray painted. Like a craft thing. I mean, not like, you know, not much of anything bigger. Now, this is what's going to create that sort of snap inside the bag that we're doing. And you'll see I've done 3 of those now in pretty quick order. And I'm just doing 3 snips on each corner. See that? Across and then dang, bang, bang. So it kind of creates a low resolution, what they call in the graphic design world, a low polygon, which means it's sort of looks like the shapes of a DeLorean car, or, you know, like a really rectangular square. There we go. All 4 of those are done. Now what we're also going to do is figure out, we need some strips of this. Now this is going to be what holds that fabric on the inside. It's the fabric on the inside that holds our pieces in there. So I need to know how wide. It needs to be as wide as the mat, the placemat. And actually I just make it a little wider than the placemat because I'm just going to trim the edges off. And then it's got to be at least as tall as this is. So these are each 1 inch of material. So if I cut this 1.5 and then you just use inside, don't use a full 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side, that'll actually work really well. So I'm going to use my cutting grid, but you can always use a pair of scissors if you want. I like to use a rotary cutter, and I want it to be 1.5, which I happen to know on this grid is the first line, because this is an 8.5 inch grid and the last line is a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do 2 of these for that red one. So the way that we're going to do these is these are going to lay on the inside and you won't even see them. Like from the outside of the bag, you're not going to see the pieces. And in fact, because this bag has black and red in it, you don't even see the black stitching of the threads, which is great. On this one though, we've actually created a piece that goes over the top. It's stitched on here. And so for us to do that, I need either some more of this fabric, or in fact, I'm gonna cut some of the other black fabric that sort of knit this scuba that I have, which is basically a spandex type material. And I like it because it's not going to fray. Now this though is gonna have to go, it's gonna have to encase that. So it needs to be more than 1.5 inches. It actually needs to be more than 2 inches. 2 inches will go around, and then you need another bit for the seam. So I need this to be 2.5 because we're going to use a very scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I need 2.5, and I need 2 of these, remember, because there's 2 sides. All right, so I do a 2.5 inch strip. Now, depending on how permanent you want these to be, are you giving these out as gifts to be, you know, and then somebody will use it for a long time? Maybe you want to do this with something where you would finish the edges. If you weren't using this type of fabric, you could use a cotton fabric, but I like this. If you have some nice knit fabric, you're not worried about it fraying, this is going to be a really great way to do it. All right, so now it's time for us to add that fabric on the inside so that we can encase our measuring tape snaps. I'm going to start on this, this red and black one, and then we'll do the gold one second. So as we get down here to the sewing machine, I want to talk to you about a couple of things you'll need to focus on. Depending upon the particular placemat that you buy, you're going to want to figure out which side is going to be your inside and which side is going to be your outside. This one's pretty much the same on either side, but if you bought a placemat that had different sides, then you'd want to pay attention to that. So I'm going to make this one the inside. I don't know why, just the one I'm going to use. And I'm going to place each of these near the top and figure out just how far down I want to come from that top, and I'm going to put a couple pins to hold it in place. And this really is just to get me started and make sure I keep going down straight the entire way. And because I'm not going to do a bunch of funny finishing seams, I'm going to sew all the way down one side, up one end, back the other, and then we'll insert our snap piece. This is our snap closure. I'm going to do this on both ends. So let me just go ahead and pin it on both ends, and I'll get ready to sew it. You know, I have been to quite a number of big department stores lately because I was shopping for a very specific product I need for my business, and it turns out they only have it in the store, which is crazy. And so I gotta tell you, there's not a lot of stuff on the shelf right now for holiday holiday table decoration. I was really surprised. I'm just using a 1/4 inch seam allowance and not even a full 1/4 inch. Like, I'm going kind of close to the edge because I want room to put that through. And like I said here, I'm just going to turn the end here. If you wanted to make sure it would go in the right distance, you could turn this exactly, you know, 1/2 inch from the end to make sure it holds that fabric out, that snap piece out. And again, I'm not quite doing a full 1/4 inch on the seam. Now I turned that at the other end in the way that I did because I don't worry, I'm only going to slide it in from one side. So you'll see here, when you put these in, you need to decide which side is going to be the outside. Like, I could leave this as a detail on the outside, but I want it inside, which means I need to make the inside of the measuring tape, that's the side with all the measurements, that needs to also be inside. So I'll just go ahead and insert this into there and make sure it's sort of centered so I have room to stitch down either side without stitching over the metal. Look at that. And then I can come in here and just trim off these black pieces because I don't need it any wider than the actual placemat. Now that's really up to you how much you what you trim, because again, it's going to be enclosed when you sew the whole thing together. All right, let me sew the other one down. And again, I'm going to be very careful not to get too thick on the seam allowance. I got to make sure that the seam allowance doesn't go over that 1/4 inch, because then I won't be able to get the measuring tape in there. Now, there's no reason for this to be super exact, so in fact, you could, if you wanted, just give yourself a little more leeway and do a wider seam allowance. You know, cut this more than 1.5 inches wide, like I did, and that would make it so much easier. There we go. So this one, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to place that inside. Now you have to do it in this direction because we want the bag to snap out. We want to be able to snap the bag open like this. And if we put it in the other way, it's harder to snap. You see, it's really difficult to get that. We want to just pull open, which is why we're doing it this way. Okay, I've slid that in. Now our next step is going to go back over to the cutting table because I want to show you on the measured table what we're going to do with this. Now that we've got the two sides put together that way, we're now going to lay this out with. We're actually going to fold it in half with the wrong sides together. That's where all the pieces to it. With the wrong sides together, lay them together to where we get the edges all nicely lined up here at the top. We're actually trying to put those snaps together more than we are the top fringe of the thing. Let's get those snaps together. Oh, so well done. And then I'm going to put a pin. Once the snap is up together, I'm going to put a pin at each of those center sides so that I know where those are. Okay. So I put a pin in there to mark it. That just helps me to figure out where that center is down the side. And again, this is on the right side of the fabric. And then I'm going to put that at a mark here on my table that's at 2 inches up on either side. And I'm going to put a pin in just to mark again where 2 inches is. And I'm only going through one layer of fabric, just the top layer of fabric, nothing else. And that's important because I'm going to fold this back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold back at that first pin, at that 2-inch pin. Here, just like that. All right, and I'm going to transfer that pin to everything. Now this is a great place if you had clips to use the clips. That would be fantastic. I'm going to go through all 3 layers now that are in there. Because what we've done now is we've basically made this kind of a shape, this layered shape. All right, so that's now the inside showing out. Now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to fold the top, this back again with the wrong sides now facing out till it lines up with that fold we just created. We're basically doing the same thing that we did when we created our bread basket. We're doing the same thing for these corner edges. And I still want to make sure that my folded, my snap things are lining up. And then I can transfer some of these other pins further up to make sure everything holds together. All right. This is, believe it or not, the last step. So now I'm going to take this piece that we've created over to the sewing machine, and we're just going to stitch along each side. Here, that's it. 1 stitch is left on each side, and this is made. All right, so here at the sewing machine, I'm going to make sure that these pieces of metal are not going to interact, and I'm going to use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to sew up either side. And here I'm going to make sure that my snap pieces are also connecting. So 1/4 inch seam allowance up either side. Now when you get down to the bottom here, it's going to go through a whole bunch of layers, right? And actually this is about a 3/8 inch seam allowance that I've gotten on this one. It's going through a whole lot of layers there. Remember, it's going through 4 layers of fabric, 2 here and 2 here. Same thing on the other side. We're going to make sure that our snaps line up. We're not really worried about sewing that fringe together because that's not going to sew. And I'll use a similar seam allowance on this side, pulling my pins as I go. And that's it. That's the 2 stitches you need to do, and then you're going to turn the thing inside out. So let me show you here. I've got the 2 pieces done. Now, if you had done it with these on the outside, that would look nice. You could do that. But we need to turn the whole of the fabric inside out, which is what we're doing right now. And it'll be hard to turn that top because it's got that metal piece in it. Just go ahead and manhandle it. It's not a problem. Or woman handle it. Either way, it's up to you. And then I'm going to press those corners out. You see how I'm pressing these corners out to get that triangular shape there. And what I really find gratifying about this red and black fabric is it's got stripes in it, so that when you push that corner out, those stripes continue down and they kind of create a little shape there of those colors. Isn't that nice? So now I've got those little triangles built in. And now I've created the little snap closure bag. Isn't that cute? And you fill it with some goodies for somebody as a nice gift. Here we go. Snap. Snap shut. Let's do the gold version. I'll show you the way we do the different top closure. So for this one, I'm going to take those 2 pieces of fabric that I cut 2.5 inches wide, by wider than the material, and then we're going to take our really pretty placemat that I purchased, and I have to decide which side do I want to be the outside, and I think I want that to be this side. It's a little more even. So we're now going to sew to the right side. This is the right side, and we'll take our piece of fabric here, and we'll put it up at one edge, and we fold this in half. So in fact, you could take this to the iron if you needed to. I'm not going to worry about this particular material because it's quite flimsy anyway, so I'm just going to fold it this way and connect it. And of course, if you had clips, you could clip it. I'm just going to give it some pins along the way here, and I'll take them out as I'm sewing. Now, this is a stretchy fabric. It does have a lot of spandex in it, so in fact, you're going to want to really mark where it goes, where it folds, because it's going to have... You want to mark where it goes because you don't want it to stretch out as you're going, so you want to be careful. So I'm kind of laying it flat and pinning it on, and then I'll come in and just be very careful as I stitch it down. All right, I'm going to use a quarter-inch seam allowance, but not a real tight one. Luckily, this material stretches, so if it's a little over, it's not going to be a problem. Quarter-inch seam allowance, and I'm just making sure that it's going down flat. That it's not stretching out as it goes through. Now, because I cut this longer than the actual placemat, I have a little leeway. If it had stretched out a little bit, it really wouldn't be a problem because I'm not trying to be exact. And then I want this nice and flat, so I'm actually going to pull it open and then top stitch it. So I'm going to stretch it open with my finger, and I'm just going to top stitch it down. So that has to be less than 1/4 inch. Otherwise, it's not going to work if you don't make it less than 1/4 inch. So we're top stitching that down. And the way you know you've done a good job top stitching it down is if you flip it over, you're going to see actually 2 lines of stitching competing in there. See it down here a little better? So you know you've done a good job of holding that open. So that's really great. I'll just trim this at the end here to match. I've magnetized my scissors so they're trying to grab everything. All right, let me trim these 2 sides up. And let me see if I've done it right, because if I have done it right, I'll be able to slide my measuring tape piece directly in there. So let me come here. Now I have to remember which side is going to be the inside. This is the outside, so I need to give the outside of that measuring tape there in it. So I'm going to put that, hold it. This is a tighter one, so you just have to be a little careful. And in fact, I could have cut this a little more than 2.5. I could have cut it 2 3/4 and have given myself a little room. But hey, it fits. I told you it's a stretchy fabric. Look at that. And we'll just work to keep this in the middle, so I have space on either end of it. All right, let's do the other end. Remember, we're doing from the outside. We're going to do it on the outside. So I will come along and pin this on. You know what I like about this idea is that you could be having a lovely sort of small dinner party at home, and maybe you want to do a small little takeaway gift for everybody, and so you make it in one of these gift bags and leave it at their place setting to match sort of all the other place settings. That'd be kind of sweet. Also, I found, this is a great project to do with grandkids. Your grandkids are over, and do you really want to, maybe they're just learning sewing, so you don't want to have to teach them how to make a sandwich of fabric and, put in batting and all the other stuff, so you can get a placemat. Maybe it's not even one of these plastic placemats. You could get the pre-quilted placemats, and do it that way. And then they're building something quickly. Like, it's pretty fast. This doesn't take very long to do. Again, I'm stitching that down. I'm going to pull my pins out. I like pinning this particular fabric rather than clipping because the clips don't always hold exactly in place, and I don't really want this stretchy fabric to move around. Look how good that is. I'm going to trim this first, and then I'll come back and top stitch it. Bring it back and top stitch it again. cute if you were giving people gifts that maybe aren't, there may be a lot of the same sort of things or small things. You're giving a bunch of small cosmetics or little things to someone and you want to have a nicer carrying bag for it. Or maybe it's a great cosmetics bag for yourself or somebody you know. I like this idea that you could turn that into a lot of things. So just like the last one we did, we're gonna put this right sides together, just like that here. I'm gonna measure up 2 inches from the bottom and fold back. So I've got those lined up at the top there, you saw that. I'm going to measure up 2 inches from the bottom and put it in a pin. Now I've sort of pressed in my, very bottom seam here, which is kind of funny because I've just done it with my hands. And it's worked really well. I'm off camera with it right now, just at the measuring table. So I've got those 2-inch pins from the bottom and I just fold back that to those 2-inch pins, keeping the other bottom fold in there, right? Fold it back to the pins. Kind of crease that if I need to, and then I'll just move the pins, actually. This is sort of the 2-pin method, right? Move the pins to those 3 layers now. And then flip it over and fold this other one back and make sure that the tops line up and the bottom is going to be creased at the same place. Make sure those line up. And then you can take your pin out and put it to all 4 layers. Right? Look how good that looks. And again, as you're doing these, you're going to do them so fast. Like, if you just do a bunch of these, on these, I like to start at the top always because I don't really care how well the bottom lines up, but I want to make sure that top is nice and pretty as it goes through. So I really want to line those up really well. And I'm going to start in just a little bit and then back off. And again, I'm using about a 1/4-inch seam allowance here, making sure I cleared the metal that's in there. Then I'll take the pin out and just let all this stuff kind of work itself out. Give it a little bit of a back stitch there. I'm going to flip this over and do the same thing at the top. And now I can actually shove those metal pieces in further if I wanted to get them out of my way. And again, I'm going to line these up and then I'm going to start in about a 1/2 inch. Start sewing and then back off to capture those. Pin out. Let the rest of that do its thing. And look at that. Our 2 seams down the sides with our piece. So here we go. I'm going to take this piece out. I'm going to pop it open. Ooh. Turn that inside out. You see I'm sort of birthing it through there. See, it's got to all come through there. And you can hear that metal snapping. Now I've turned those right sides. Ooh. And I'm just sort of wrangling it, pushing it out here. Just getting those points pushed out, see? How good that looks. Same thing on the other side. Just sort of push that out. Because it's naturally going to pull open. It's naturally going to pull that fabric out into this triangular shape, right? And these plastic ones actually stand up really well. I mean, look how good that's going to create a nice bottom already without you having to do anything. You could come in and iron that in if you wanted, but look at that. Isn't that cute? So there you have it. 2 really cute bags made from simple placemats. And if you were doing these start to finish without, running through a tutorial video like I'm doing, they would happen so quickly. In fact, I made the sample bag, this one, and this one in less than 10 minutes each. Super quick and speedy. The longest part of the job was going to the store and finding the placemats I wanted to use. All right, well, I hope you take advantage of this really cool way of turning placemats into really cute gift bags to give away to your family and friends. And until next time, folks, stay crafty. Bye for now. All right, I wish it was a little bigger. It fit my shoes in it and I could carry it away. Oh, I love it.